Shalom Aleichem, everybody. We're now about to embark on a journey that's going to change our lives forever. We're now going to learn the Chai Klalim from Rabbi ben Rav Nachman. So, since today we have in the audience a very diverse crowd, I wanted to give an introduction to bring everybody up to speed, that everybody should be on the same page. We should all be able to understand and gain together. So to start out, I wanted to speak about that we know that Rabbi Nachman, that he authored the Sefer Likutey Moharan, and he told us that in his Sefer we should learn it in two. We should have two Sdarim in his Sefer. One Seder we should learn his Sefer B'kiyas. We should learn very quickly, learn one Torah to the next, over and over again, keep going forward until we become very well versed in his Sefer. And the second Seder that we should have in his Sefer is we should learn it Be'in. We should learn it more in depth, and that is the main Seder that we need to have in Likutey Moharan. And so the question is, how do we do that? So that's what we're gonna start learning about that. We're going to start giving us these series of shirim. We're going to be about the Chai Kolam, about the 18 principles of how to connect ourselves to Rabbi Nachman, and to start being able to learn his Sefer on our own and take out practical advice that will help us with our Avodas Hashem with. So the Rabbi tells us that we need a leleches im hataras, that we should designate a certain time period, that we choose one of the Torahs in the Likutey Moharan, and we should learn it for a certain time period. And during that time period, all of our Avodas Hashem, all of our service of Hashem should be according to what it says in that Torah. So now a brief introduction to who was Rabbi ben Rav Nachman. A lot of people have never heard of him before. So he was the son of Reb Nachman Tulchiner, who Reb Nachman Tulchiner, he was the main disciple of Reb Nosson Breslov. And his son, Reb Avram, he was born about 4 years after Reb Nosson was nifter, and he passed. And Reb Avram, he passed away in the year Tav Reish Ayin Ches. And he was a very special person. He was a very great person. That he was an ish emes, a man of truth. That even though that in Breslov today there's a custom that on the Shvi Shel Pesach, on the last day of Pesach, at the Nidas Chag, at the end of the Yom Tov, there's a tradition to say over the story of the Baal Shem Tov going to Eretz Yisrael, but he himself refused to say it because he wasn't sure that all the details were 100% true, so he didn't want to say it. And everything that he said was very exact, and we'll see that the Chai Kolam that we're about to learn, the 18 principles, can be found in the introduction to his Sefer called Biur HaLikutim, which is his commentary on Likutey Moharan. And anybody that's familiar with this Sefer knows that he writes very concisely, and there's much more behind the words that he writes than what is written on the paper. And he worked very. He would take a bag of svarim and a little bit of bread, and he would go to the forest the whole week, and he would be busy in the forest serving Hashem, davening and learning the whole week. And he would come back to be with his family for Shabbos. And he would only write Chidushei Torah, his own inspirations of Torah, after crying a lot to Hashem. And at the end of his life, when he was sick and he had some problem with his eyes, if he cried, it caused him tremendous pain. So because of that, he stopped writing his chidushim, his insights to the Likutey Moharan, because he felt that it wasn't befitting. If he couldn't cry to Hashem, then it wasn't worthwhile for him to write. It's important to point out that these Chai Kolam, these 18 principles that Rabbi ben Rav Nachman laid out for us, this is not his own invention. He did the homework for us. He took them from. Some of them can be found in the introduction that Rabbi Nosson writes to the Likutey Moharan, and in Chelik Aleph of Likutey Moharan, and also Chelik Beis. and some can be found scattered in Sichos Moharan and Chaim Moharan and Likutey Halachos as well. And some also, he came to the realization through working very hard and learning Likutey Halachos over and over again. He realized that even though Reb Nosson didn't tell us explicitly some of these columns, some of these principles, it was clear that that's how Reb Nosson himself understood Likutey Moharan. That's how Reb Nosson learned Likutey Moharan. So these are the Chai Kolam, that they all come from the Rebbe, Rabbi Breslov and Reb Nosson. And through using these kolam, we're going to be able to connect ourselves to Likutey Moharan. It's going to open up for us a whole new way of learning Likutey Moharan, because most people, when they're faced with Likutey Moharan, they think that Likutey Moharan, this is a sefer that's from a Kabbalah, and only people that know Kabbalah. I'm a very simple yid. I don't know much. I'm not well versed in Torah, so usually a person opens up, sees that they don't understand. They think that this is deep Kabbalah. They close the sefer, close the Likutey Moharan, put it back in the shelf for it to collect dust. And the Rebbe said that his sefer, his book is for everybody, on for every level, at every time. And every person himself, he has many different levels that he goes through in different times in his life. Sometimes it's a higher level, sometimes lower level. But this Likutey Moharan is for everybody, for where they're holding, and at every time. So this is something that a lot of people have a lot of difficulty with. How could that be? I open up Likutey Moharan, and I don't understand anything. So after we learn these 18 principles, we'll see that even a person like myself, that is a very simple person, not well versed in Torah, and doesn't know any Kabbalah, that a person like me will also be able to open up Likutey Moharan and gain tremendous practical eitzes, and it's going to change your life. I could say for myself that from the time that I personally started learning the Chai Kolam, learning Likutey Moharan in this oifen, in this way, that it's changed my life tremendously. That I see that my shalom bayis, my personal relationship with my wife is better, my relationship with my with my children is better, that my own personal relationship with Hashem is better. The way that I look at the world is just completely changed. All this is the merit from learning Likutey Moharan al pi l'chai kolam. So this is a very important journey that we're about to embark on, and it should be noted to everybody that the lashon, the text, that the wording of Rabbi Bar Nachman is very difficult, and this is something that is going to take time. That we're going to have to. It's recommended to read over the words. Everybody should read over the kolam if they're able to, over and over again, and slowly you'll see that you'll be able to understand it better. Because the first time I read it, a lot of the kolam, the principles, I understood some of them, but a lot of them it was like reading Chinese, and I had no idea what was going on. I read it over and over again and still didn't understand anything. I looked on some of the books that commentate about it, and slowly it started going in. I heard shiurim about it, and little by little it's going in. And as you start to learn the Likutey Moharan in this way, it also helps you. So anybody that's able to get a text, they could just the Hakdama Rishona, the first introduction for the Bir HaLikutim. If anybody has the old Likutey Moharans with Kolam Meforshim, be found in the back at the beginning of the Bir HaLikutim, or Bir HaLikutim is also can be found as a separate sefer, and there's a couple of different printings of it. And in the beginning, the first introduction, you could find the kolam, you could find the principles, and it's recommended to go over it as to prepare for each year. Anybody is able to. And also, don't be alarmed if you don't understand everything right away, because all of the kolam, all these principles are connected to each other. So it's like if anybody that's learned Isser B'Heter before in Yerodea knows that in the beginning, as you start to learn the simanim, that it's very difficult. You don't really understand much, and after you learn more and more, you have more knowledge until you complete the whole thing. Then you go back and you review it, and all of a sudden you start understanding everything. So this is like a puzzle, that each klal is part of the piece, as a piece of the puzzle. Until we put the entire puzzle together, there might be things that we don't have clear. But after we go through the entire kolam and go back and review on our own, it'll be very clear. So, and these kolam themselves can be studied more in depth. We're going to try to learn them very briefly and take out a very basic understanding of them, in order that we should be able to use them l'maisa, to practically to connect to Likutey Moharan. And another thing that they said about Rabbi was that he was a genius at hiding himself. Nobody knew during his lifetime. He was almost unheard of. He had very few people, very few students, but now we see after he's passed on, he keeps becoming more and more well known throughout Breslov. So we see his greatness, because the Rebbe tells us in Torah Zayin Chelek Beis in Likutey Moharan that it's not there's no chachma, there's nothing special about a person that could just go up to the heavens and be there. The main thing is that even when a person goes up to Shemayim, that he's still down here. So we see like by the Rebbe, that even in the last year of the Rebbe's life, there was about 600 Talmidim that came to be with the Rebbe for Rosh Hashanah and Uman. But we see now that it's been 207 years after the passing of the Rebbe, that this year they're saying that there was 70 or 80,000 men that were there this year for Rosh Hashanah. So we see that the more and more years to go by with the passing of the Rebbe, the more and more that he is down here together with us, even though he's up there. So also Rabbi Moharan, during his lifetime, nobody heard of him. Nobody had anything. Very few people had anything to do with him. But the more and more years after his passing, we see that his Torah is becoming more and more well known, and many more people are connecting. And I see for myself that this was the master key that opened up my ability to connect to the Rebbe and Likutey Moharan, because the main way for us to connect to the Rebbe is through learning the Sfarim of the Rebbe, learning Likutey Moharan, and that's how we can receive the knowledge of the Rebbe, and that'll change our lives forever. And the last thing I wanted to point out in the introduction to the Chai Kolam was that I remember when I started learning Gemara, so everyone was very busy. How do you learn Gemara? Everybody was busy talking, how do you learn Gemara? And I heard from a lot of different rabbis that instead of talking about it, you should learn it. And that was the greatest advice I ever heard, because that was the only way I really came to know how to learn it. Through learning it, that's how you learn it. But what exists here in the learning of the Chai Kolam, the 18 principles, this is a completely different type of learning that anybody's ever experienced before. Because this is not learning about Likutey Moharan. This is it. This is not something that's separate from Likutey Moharan. This is a chelik. This is a part of the learning itself. That this is what comes out from learning Likutey Moharan. It's not something different. It might be difficult to understand what I'm talking about, because we're not so used to this. But as we go on and as we progress, as we go through the column, it'll be clear it'll be retroactively you'll be able to understand what I'm talking about. Okay, so let us start on our journey and learn the Klal Harishon, learn the first principle and the Chai Kolam. And another thing to point out is that Rabbi, he said that he was very busy for many years. He didn't understand that the Rebbe says that you have to learn Likutey Moharan in depth. And he was very unclear, what does that mean? And after working very hard, and especially through learning Likutey Halachos, working hard and learning the words of Reb Nosson, he came to the conclusion that to learn Likutey Moharan al pi the Chai Kolam, through these 18 principles, that's the answer. That's what it means to learn Likutey Moharan in depth. So now we're going to start with the first principle. The first principle, Rabbi Nachman, he writes in the beginning of the first introduction to Bir Likutim, he writes that this is the main klal. This is the most important klal. And as we'll see, that what that means is this is what gets the car. It's like turning on the engine. Once we get ourselves started, then we can add on the other principles, and we can start having more what to work with. But without the first principle, we won't be what to work with. So now we're going to start reading the first klal in the Likutey the Chai Kolam. Klal Rishon, the first principle is Hu Masila Hanal Ba'Akdamas Moranat Asher Bo Soili V'Soivev B'Chol Sfarav HaKadosh. This is what was mentioned in the introduction to Likutey Halachos that Reb Nosson mentions, which is a very important thing. That the whole Likutey Halachos is built on this principle. Ki milvad hanister v'hadrash shenimsa b'mamarav hakdoshim ba'oshram b'mokom acher u'imamar echad lechavero. Besides the fact that there exists the ability to learn Likutey Moharan from and the meaning of Josh bringing from one Torah to explain, help explain a different Torah, and going into the secrets of the Torah. The Kama Pama Yereshigam Etzim Hamamar Hu Kein Chida Valbasha Niflo Lasogosoi Kana Basha Sasogas Sipurei Mais Yosef. Even though sometimes it seems when we open up the Likutey Moharan, it sounds like this is a very deep idea, that it seems like it's deep Kabbalah, just like what's going on in the Sipurei Maisios. Oid Gam B'voya B'Seid HaNigle Nechoinem V'Niflaim Hein B'Chachma U'Smuna. But now, this is a very important point here. That not only, even though it's true that does exist the idea of Sisrei Torah, the deep secrets of Torah and Drash in the Likutey Moharan, but also the Likutey Moharan can be learned al pi nigle, learning simple Pashut Pshat, like the same way that we learn Gemara. Moving along, Haresha v'Seifa v'Amsiasa sheb'chol mamar v'inin mefarshim u'mevarim zeh lazeh. That the beginning, middle, and end of Likutey Moharan, each part of a single Torah can be used to explain a different part. That this is something we don't have in other Sfarim. That if you don't understand the beginning of Likutey Moharan, let's say we're learning Torah Aleph, and you start with Ois Aleph, and you're stuck. You don't understand something. So if you don't understand something, if you continue reading later on in the Torah, somewhere later on in the Torah, that could help you to explain what you didn't understand in the Ois Aleph in the Torah. And in the parentheses, we're going to skip that. That's just a different girsa, a different text of this klal. Rabbi Nachman throws in that this is the limud hanigla. This is the limud hanigla asher huchan bahem liyosam shavan lechol nefesh. To learn Likutey Moharan al pi nigla, to try to come to understand the simple meaning of the text. That is something that everybody could do. It's not only for big lamdanim, big rabbis and Talmidei Chachamim, or Mekubalim, people that know the deep secrets of the Talmud. Even for very simple people that are not very knowledge and well versed in Torah, they could also be able to learn Likutey Moharan. And I'm going to come back to explain that more the connection between these two things about learning the simple text and the connection to how the beginning, middle, end all explain each other. V'yan asher mavur midvarav hakadoshim b'sim yudches Likutey Tinyana she'ein ledrosh v'lechadesh rak haroi lezeh. If we'll open up Likutey Moharan, the second chelik Torah Yudches, so the Rabbi speaks there about the dangers of somebody being a leader of the people. That he could come to do be transgress tzitzicha, to kill and to commit adultery and to steal, and in the end of that Torah, the Rebbe throws in there, and also a person who is being machadish Torah, who is coming up with new insights into Torah, he also has that same sakana, that same danger with his new insights into Torah. He has the ability to cause people to stumble. So it's a grave danger. And so it says she'ein ledrosh lechadish rak haroi. There's only somebody that's befitting that is holding a level where he could do that without causing other people danger. He's supposed to do that, because there in the Torah, the Rabbi was speaking about leaders that were very big people. We're not talking about Hashem, we're not evil people. We're talking about good people. But even so, there exists a very big danger. Somebody that's a leader of a people, or somebody that comes up with new insights into Torah. V'dai v'hoiser l'archoikim v'shvem kamoinu lumur l'haven ba'nister v'adjush sheneschadju mikdoshe elyon. And for people like us that are very far away, we're not holding by these high levels. So for us, it's prohibited for us to come up with new chidushim, new insights into the Torah when we're learning Likutey Moharan. And therefore, Rabbi Nachman tells us in his sefer, in the Bir Likutim, that's why he sticks to learning to the simple meaning of the Likutey Moharan. And therefore he only explains the meaning of the text using the beginning, middle, and end to explain what's going on. So now Rabbi is going to tell us a chiddush that that in this in the Torah in Yudches Tinyana in Likutey Moharan, the Rabbi is coming to tell us that it's prohibited for us to come up with new chidushim. That we're not allowed to bring in something into Likutey Moharan in a Torah that we're learning that was not already there. But anything that already was revealed is already on the paper, on that in the Torah that we're learning in Likutey Moharan, and it just was lacking that we didn't study it enough in depth to see all the different parts, to how each part can explain each other. That we are allowed to, and that we could be mechad. That is the chidushim, the insights in Likutey Moharan that is for people like us. It is permissible for us to say, but to come up with new ideas, that we're not allowed to. So now I wanted to what usually happens when a person learns Likutey Moharan, that as is known, that Rabbi himself writes in the introduction to Likutey Moharan that the simple meaning of Likutey Moharan is very difficult to understand. So normally what happens is when a person opens up Likutey Moharan and he starts reading a line, he gets to the point where he gets stuck. He doesn't understand. So the normal tendency of a person is when he gets stuck, that's when he comes to start making putting in his own drushim and bringing in his own knowledge of Kabbalah and coming to explain what's going on there. And that is what Avraham ben Rav Nachman is telling us, that is very dangerous, because then we're going to deviate from the meaning of what the Rebbe is saying. We're never going to come to the true meaning. And even if we're bringing from a different Torah in Likutey Moharan to explain here, we're not going to it's going to get us confused, and we're not going to be able to come to the true meaning of what the Rebbe means here in Likutey Moharan. So, what do we need to do? That the answer to that is this call, that when we learn the Likutey Moharan, we have to remember that the Reisha and the Seifa and the Emsa, that each part of the Likutey Moharan, the beginning, middle, and end, all explains each other. And if we know that, we won't run to other places to try to explain the Likutey Moharan. What we need to do is, first we need to learn through the Torah that we're learning in the Likutey Moharan, read it over several times until we have the layout of the Torah very clear. And after we have the layout very clear, so it'll be normal that a person will have a lot of questions, a lot of things that they don't understand, and they'll want to try to start working to come to answer these questions. It might be advisable to write down the questions. A person could start davening about understanding these questions. But now that we have these questions, so now what do we do? Now we have the layout of the Torah in front of us. So if I don't understand something in Ois Aleph, so then I could start thinking about it. And all the other parts of the Torah and the Likutey Moharan and the Torah that I'm learning. Where do I see any connections where the Rebbe might have mentioned something that's connected to that it could explain this point that I'm stuck on, and then after I get that, I find the connection. I could find that all of a sudden I'll see that in Ois Ches explained what I was stuck on, and Ois Aleph, but it's not only that. Now that I understood Ois Aleph better, we'll see that part that I was learning in Ois Aleph will also explain to me in Ois Ches and give me a deeper understanding of what's going on in Ois Ches. And then when I put those two things together, I'll also find another connection. I'll be able to understand a different part of the Torah. And these connections, everybody according to what they see and their level, but they're endless. A person can keep finding more and more connections, and through making these connections, that's how he'll be able to find the practical advice that Rabbi Nachman is giving us. That's hidden here under behind the words that what Rabbi Nachman wants us to connect to and take out and become a better Yid. So this is something that Reb Nosson. Why was Reb Nosson? He wasn't from the biggest Talmidim of the Rebbe. There was a lot of other very big Talmidim that were bigger tzaddikim than Reb Nosson. They knew more Kabbalah. There was Reb Shmuel Isaac. He reached a level where he was able to do 16 hours of his Avodas a day, spend almost the whole day in Tefillah. These are people that were very, very big. So why is it that Reb Nosson he merited to be great. In the end, he merited to be greater than all of the Talmidim, and he ended up, everything we have today from Breslov is all from Reb Nosson. So what was his secret? Because when he came to learn from the Rebbe, he put all his preconceived notions to the side. He himself, he was a Talmid Chacham, and he knew a lot before he came to the Rebbe. But when he came to the Rebbe, he put his knowledge to the side and worked to receive the knowledge of the Rebbe. That for the other Talmidim, it was very difficult, and they weren't able as much as Reb Nosson to do this. And because Reb Nosson did this, that's how he was able to become so great. Also, Reb Nachman Tulchiner, who was the main disciple of Reb Nosson, he wasn't from the biggest Talmid Chacham, but because he also had this point, this nekuda, that he was vatal himself to his Rebbe, that he put his preconceived notions to the side, and then that allowed him to be able to receive the Torah from his Rebbe. So we learn the Likutey Moharan. The main thing we have to know is we want to find out what is the Rebbe telling us. That when we get stuck and Likutey Moharan, if we go to the Indian of Josh and Sardis and our preconceived knowledge and try to fill that in and bring from others for him to answer what we're stuck on, then instead of helping us to understand what the Rebbe is saying, what will happen is instead we're going to be malbish, we're going to be putting our own knowledge into the words of Likutey Moharan, but it's not going to be Likutey Moharan b'chal. And a person goes into that way of learning, he'll become greater and greater, but he'll come further and further away from the Rebbe. But if a person wants to become a Talmud, become a true student of Rabbi Nachman, we have to try to find out what is the Rebbe telling us, and we have to stick to the text that what the Rebbe says here. And the way we can do that is like what we said from the Kal Rishon, the first principle, by sticking to learning the words of the Rebbe and knowing that the answer to our questions are all in the same Torah that we're learning, just in a different place. And we know that, so then we know we have work ahead of us to start looking, seeing where is there connections, where did the Rebbe speak about this concept somewhere else, where can I see where do I see any connections? And this is something that is a very big principle in Breslov, that all the secrets to a person's life, they can all be found inside their life. That a person's busy, he's running after this thing or there. Let's say on vacation, a person's going all over the world, running to try to find himself. He doesn't know that all the secrets, all his happiness, is in his house, in his own life, with his family, with his spouse, and with his children, and with his manas and chesaras, with his matzah parnasa, his financial situation that Hashem gave him, everything that he needs. That's where Hashem gave him, and that's all the secrets to his life is there. Now, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with going on vacation. A person that needs vacation, sure, it's okay, but a person should know that he shouldn't be looking to find himself over there. If it's to relax from his hard work, that's fine. But he should know that he'll only be able to find himself where he is. If he knows that when he goes on vacation, so he'll be able to enjoy his vacation. But if when he goes on vacation, he's trying to find that secret of his life that he doesn't know that they're in front of his nose, he'll never come to it. It'll just go further and further away, and he'll never come to find his secrets of his life and be happy with his life. So that's the same thing here in the Likutey Moharan, that everything we need, the recipe to success, is all in the Torah that we're learning. If we go to different Torahs and look in different places, we won't find it. And someone also said an example that someone asked a question that one time I was in a shir and someone he said, oh, this is what we're learning here, it's like this other Torah in the Likutey Moharan. So the rabbi told him that you're right, that's true, but it's like if someone has a headache and instead of taking an aspirin for his headache, that let's say that a medicine for his stomach, let's say that the medicine for the headache and the medicine for the stomach pain, there's a certain ingredient that they share in common. So that ingredient helps to heal. But if you take medicine for stomach pains, for headache, it's not going to work, or vice versa. So now we're healing ourselves spiritually by learning a certain Torah in the Likutey Moharan. If we try to bring in a different Torah, that's just going to confuse us and not help us to get what we could get out of this Torah. So we have to stick to the Torah we're learning. We have to stick to it. So that's the main things that we need to take out of here from the first call. And part of this reminds me of the parable that Rabbi Nachman said, that there was a Yid a Jew who had a dream, and in his dream, he dreamed that in Vienna there's a treasure that's underneath the bridge. So after he woke up, he decided he's going to go to Vienna. He traveled to Vienna, and he's there waiting. He sees a lot of people. It's a busy place, and he's thinking about what is he going to do? How is he going to dig up this treasure? And a soldier walked by and sees him staring there. And he said, "What's going on?" So the Jew decided, "I better tell this guy what's going on. That way I'll still be able to get the treasure." So he told the soldier about his dream. The soldier said, "Oh, that's ridiculous. You Jews, you're big dreamers. I also had a dream that such and such a Jew that lived in such and such a town, underneath his cellar, there's a big treasure." And when the Jew heard that, he couldn't believe it, because the soldier mentioned his name and his town. So he realized that his treasure is underneath his nose. So he went back home to his house. He dug underneath the cellar, and then he discovered the treasure. So Rabbi teaches us that in Avodas Hashem, serving Hashem, that the treasures are by us. You have to go to the tzaddik. That the tzaddik teaches us how to uncover these treasures. So by us learning Likutey Moharan, we're going to the tzaddik. We're connecting ourselves with the tzaddik, and through that we'll be able to uncover the treasures in our life and see that all the treasures that we need to serve and to grow in our service of Hashem and to be happy people are all underneath our nose. And by learning Likutey Moharan, through these 18 principles, we'll start to enjoy life more and see how everything is underneath our nose. And also, part of the searching, the chipus v'bakasha, people think that the searching, that's something that's b'diavad, that's something that we have to do it, but they don't really want to do it. They don't understand that the Rabbi teaches us that itself is l'chachia. That's how life was set up. That the way everyone's looking to skip over their life and get to the results, and they don't realize that the only way you could ever get there is through the derech, through working hard. That's the only way you'll ever be able to get there. There's no such thing as a kisar derech, a shortcut to get results, especially when it comes to the Likutey Moharan. Likutey Moharan requires a lot of thinking, a lot of effort, and in the first story in Sipur Maisios. So the Sheni Lemelech, the viceroy, he's searching for the princess for years and going through a lot of difficulties, and she leaves him a note that she tells him that where she's going to be, and he's searching out for her, and nobody could believe he can't find her, and he bumps into a lot of different giants, and they all make fun of him. He says, "No, I believe that she's there, that I'm going to find her." And then in the end, if anybody is familiar with the story, then in the end, the last giant that he speaks to, that's in charge of all the winds of the world, the wind comes back late and tells him, "I was busy bringing the princess to this place." So the Rabbi Bender, he was from the elders of Breslov in the previous generation. So he asked a very simple question. She left him a note that that's where she could be found. So how could it be that the wind just brought her there now? She should have been there already a long time. So Rabbi Bender, he answered that he's teaching us a very important thing in our Avodas Hashem. It's coming to teach us that our search, that's what creates our reality. His searching, the viceroy, his searching for the princess, that's what brought her there. So too in our life, through our searching, that's what creates our reality and brings us to where we need to get to. And that's something that might be difficult to understand when I used to, but that's part of learning Likutey Moharan. That the Rebbe says we need to go with this Torah. So the elders of Breslov explain what does that mean. Going with the Torah of Likutey Moharan means that you see your life here in Likutey Moharan. You start learning a certain Torah. All of a sudden, you see that the different ideas and subject matters that the Rebbe speaks about. You see that's relevant to your life. You see that that's what's happening in your life, and then you see the different problems and the different things that you need to work and cope with. And the Rebbe himself, he gives you the eitzos, he gives you the advice how to deal with that, and you need to do that. And that through that, a person could be truly successful and will be able to gain and connect himself to the Rabbi, and that's how I'll really be able to advance. Okay, so that was all the first, in brief, the first call. So let's just give a brief summary of that. So what came out for us that we could use to help us gain Lamaisa practically? So one thing is that we know when we learn Likutey Moharan, we're learning Nigla. We're trying to find out the simple text, the simple meaning of what the Rebbe wants. It happens to be that simple meaning is very difficult, because the simple meaning that this was something that I forgot to mention, that when a person learns Gemara, so the simple meaning of the text, behind that it's hidden a lot of different things. We see that on the Gemara. There's many different commentaries, and all those commentaries are just coming to explain what was behind the Gemara. But Likutey Moharan is a little bit different, because in Likutey Moharan exists the fact that the most basic level of understanding, the simple meaning of what's going on, that itself is hidden, and the way that we find it is by looking through the Torah and finding a different place. And after we find it and reveal it, we see that what we looked to us to be hidden was always revealed from the beginning. So what we say is that the nigla is nister, and al yidei the nigla we show that it was always nigla, which is a little bit difficult for us to understand. We're not used to these concepts. We'll see as we learn this that the 12th principle, that'll help us to understand this more. But to repeat that, is that the simple text in Likutey Moharan, the meaning is very difficult to understand. It's hidden. But if we look very hard, we'll find in a different place that it really is revealed in a different place. And then we'll see that it was always revealed, and we'll be able to gain. So, and another thing, we're going back to our summary, is that, so when we learn the Likutey Moharan, we have to try to figure out what is the Rebbe saying. And we can do that by learning the text over and over again, and comparing the beginning, middle, and end, putting it together to answer our questions. And through that's the limud nigla, that's the learning the simple pshat. And through that's how we can connect and we can start advancing it. And once we do this, we'll be able to connect, we'll be able to put this together with the other principles that we're going to learn. And we'll start to gain. And we have to be careful not to try to, or always put away our preconceived notions to the side. Because then, once we do that, if we bring in other form to explain the Likutey Moharan, we'll get very confused, and we won't end up coming out with bringing it down to our own level and bring out practical advice. So we have to stick to the text of the Likutey Moharan in that same Torah, and through that we'll be able to gain. But if we don't do that, we'll get stuck. And another thing to point out is that, so somebody once asked me that, okay, so now I learned, and I did that, I put together the different pieces of the puzzle on it, and now I figured out an understanding of the simple meaning of what I didn't understand before. So shouldn't it be that me, where I am, should have to come out with the same exact understanding as someone else that's in a different place, and he should also have to understand it the same exact way? So answer is no. That the pshat, the simple level, has many different dimensions and can be dealt more and more, and as one person's pshat, his understanding can never be soiser, can never be completely different can never contradict what the other person said. But if a person always stays true to the text and always make sure that what he's saying in his understanding, he sees that is what it says in Likutey Moharan, so then there never will be a contradiction between the way that I learned Likutey Moharan and the way that you learn Likutey Moharan. And as long as they stick true to the text, well, it'll develop it further, and it'll be a better understanding of someone else, a higher dimension, but it will never contradict. So that was the Klal Rishon, that we need to learn, try to learn the simple meaning of the text, and the way we do that is by being familiar with the layout of the text of Likutey Moharan, and using the different parts of the Torah from different parts, different sections, to answer the part that we didn't understand when we find the connection. And a person part of the learning of Likutey Moharan, maybe a person might see it clearly, and if it doesn't, part of the learning of Likutey Moharan is to daven. The Rebbe wants us to daven about the Torah, so we have to daven to not only to be Mekayim, to keep what it says in there, but also to understand. And the more that we daven about the Torah, the more we have a connection to it, to understand as a chilek of the learning and going with the Torah, to daven about it. Okay, moving along to Klal Hasheni. The second klal is the second principle, Hu asher bepeles umishkal chachmasai v'ruach kodshai, Mona v'sofer kol dibor v'dibor, heim bepeh, heim b'chsav, malakatzer, malaharich, malachaser, umaliater. That everything that the Rabbi said, whether it was orally or written, it is exact, and every word that the Rebbe said, whether he spoke more concisely or he more at length, or he left out something, or he added something that seems unnecessary, it all is exact. It was done for a certain reason. Kuva mizeh b'seif hamamar shalu es Rabbi Yossi ben Kisma b'simen nun zayin Likutey Moharan chelik aleph. As we see, and it says in the parentheses there, in Torah and Zion, that when Rabbi Nassan was writing over when the Rebbe was giving over the manuscript, before he gave the manuscript to Rabbi Nassan to write copy over the Likutey Moharan, the Rebbe erased some words that were part of the Torah. Shegam b'siras klav yodi lehamatik macha kama pamim be'emsa eze tevois v'leichash v'loi sama libo heder hatuna behem shimshach b'siva sachoyser v'hakitzer leihibit al hechreicham le'in shezlasam ein mavinim beperish varav. And the Rebbe wasn't concerned, even though he erased those words, and by erasing those words made it that a person can't understand what's going on. The Rebbe was not concerned with that, because the Rebbe knew exactly what he needed to reveal in the world and what not to reveal in the world. That part of this call helps us to understand that there's a lot more than what we see behind the words, and we have to know that every word that's in the Likutey Moharan, if something's extra, that's not extra, we have to figure out why does it say that. Or sometimes the Rebbe first he mentions something in a certain order, and then he changed the order later on. That was done there was a significance between that, and through, like we learned in the previous call, the first principle, that through finding the connection of the different parts of the Torah that we're learning, that's how we'll be able to come to figure out what's so significant about this. And now moving along to the third principle, Kal Shlishi. B'mokem shekoil harbe dvarim v'inyanim, u'boicher be'inyan echad v'teifes oisei l'moshel adugma l'moed mitay al kol hanyanim hanimsayim b'zeh haklal, af al pi shekvanasei al zeh v'chayetzi b'zeh, ve'ein shaykh kal l'shal ispali al mashatovas davar zeh davka l'dugma, nir v'nigla v'chol zois, kama pam shenimsa kavan miuchedes, af al pi shalei pirsha b'ferish, b'boicher v'teifes ha'inyan v'lein acher, kashenevar lekama b'bir ha'mamar shebesimen dal Likutey kama v'oi b'kama mamar. That every time the Rebbe he chooses a certain example when he's speaking about a couple of different ideas, and he chooses a certain example about that inyan. So that was done specifically, even though it's true that there are a lot of other examples that could also have been brought, and they also are true. But that which the Rebbe chose a specific example, that was exact. And once we understand why the Rebbe chose the example that he did, we'll be able to connect all the other examples that are also true and understand them much better. And the way that we can do that is through what we learned in the first principle, through finding different parts of the Torah and seeing how they connect to explain what's going on. We can understand. Like for an example, in Torah Zion and Chelik Beis, the Rebbe gives an example that it's prohibited to be merachim, to pity on a reitzeach, on a murder. So the question is, why did the Rebbe choose specifically the example of a murderer? Why not somebody else? So through learning the Torah itself, I gave the example of Torah Zion and Chelik Beis. So through learning that Torah Zion and Chelik Beis, if we learn it very carefully, we'll see the different sections of the Torah. That will help us to understand why the Rebbe chose specifically Reitzeach, and through that we'll be able to understand all the other examples of all the other different evil people that the Rebbe did not bring. Why that's also true. An important thing that I forgot to mention is that someone told me once that I started telling him about these 18 principles, and he said, that's very nice, but I don't really have much time. I have to work many hours of the day. I'm very busy, and I have also, I learned the Daf Yomi, the different things that So it's very nice that you're telling me all these great things, but it sounds like it takes a lot of time, and I don't have time for that. So the answer to that person is, it's not true. Everybody has time for this. That when the Rebbe said to take a certain time period, he didn't say how many hours you should spend per day. It's very possible the Rebbe meant to spend a lot of hours on that. So if we spend less time, so it'll just take us more time to get to where we need to, but we'll still be able to get to there. So, for example, if somebody has for 5 minutes before he goes to sleep, he could take a small pocket-sized Likutey Moharan. He can learn a few words for each night before he goes to sleep in the Torah that he wants to learn. And little by little, it'll take more time, but he'll become familiar with the Torah, and he'll be able to think about the Torah on the way to when he goes to work, and when and his break. And a little bit after he becomes familiar with the Torah, he'll be able to start learning the classical perushim on Likutey Moharan, the Bir Likutim, the Parpos L'Chochma. He'll be able to eventually start opening up the sources that the Rebbe brings. We're going to learn about that soon. That's also going to be one of the principles of opening up the sources that the Rebbe brings to understand them, to help us understand Likutey Moharan better, and also then to eventually to open up the Likutey Halachos on that are connected to the Torah that we're learning. Because Reb Nosson writes in his introduction to Likutey Halachos that it's two very, very important things that most people don't know. One thing that he writes there is that the Rebbe himself said that most people, they don't appreciate the chidushim, the insights of Reb Nosson into the Torah's Likutey Moharan, because they're not familiar enough with the Torahs. There are a lot of people today, they read through Likutey Halachos and they don't get much. They're looking for the hischasus, the nice hischasus in between the lines, but they don't really gain so much. They don't understand what Reb Nosson is doing. Reb Nosson also writes in the introduction there towards the end that Likutey Halachos is an explanation on the Torah's Likutey Moharan. So once a person is familiar, if a person is familiar, he learns the Torahs, then he goes to learn Likutey Halachos. He'll see that it'll be a completely different Likutey Halachos. Have a much greater emunas chachamim. Also in the Rebbe, because he'll be familiar with the Torah, and also in the Likutey Halachos, he'll see that Reb Nosson, all these things that he thought were Chinese, and all these nice drushes that were really between the lines of the drushes, Reb Nosson is explaining the simple meaning of the text, and from that we can come out with the Eitzes L'Maisa, the practical advice of how to connect it, and then it becomes a completely different Likutey Halachos. It becomes a bit of, we can get tremendous chiyas, we can have tremendous enjoyment learning Likutey Halachos after we're familiar with the Torahs. And even if we spend 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day learning Likutey Moharan until we're very familiar with the Torah, then eventually we'll be able to go to Likutey Halachos. And if we understand that, once we're familiar with the Torah Likutey Moharan, we'll be able to understand Likutey Halachos, and then we'll be able to understand that he's explaining. We'll see how he's explaining the Torah. We'll come to a higher level of understanding of the Likutey Moharan, and then we'll also be able to see how Reb Nosson is telling us Eitzes L'Maisa, the practical advice of Likutey Moharan. I think we'll try to cover, maybe we'll see if we can have enough time today to cover Kal Revi, the fourth and fifth principle, and then we'll hold until the next time. So Kal Revi is a very difficult klal. That Kal Revi, the first time that I learned it, it was like Chinese. I heard it over and over again, and I wasn't very familiar. I did what's going on. And little by little, as I started spending more time to really go through it, little by little it became clear. But so don't get scared off if you don't understand it, because in my opinion, this is the hardest principle to understand. Okay, Kal Revi, the fourth principle. Hu bedavar hakelim hanizkarim b'chayei Moharan sipurim chadashim oisei. So we're going to hopefully we're going to go to that story and cover it, because it's going to help us to understand. But first, let's read the written words over here. That there it's talking about the vessels and Likutey Moharan asher bahem ba'atzon nimsoim klei hamalacha shenef'olim al yodem. That they're talking about the vessels that they themselves have in them the kli, the vessel that the malacha was done to make it. That it's something that we don't really have in Gashmis, in physical, that the kli itself has it, and it also has the kli that made it. because every comprehension of the Rebbe, Tispal v'tiyah b'tikunim, l'amshachos v'tas hasogos haTorah shemson bo ba'atzma. Because in the words that the Rebbe is telling us, the Hasog itself, that itself brings about what it talks about into the world. That's something that's very difficult to comprehend. I'll see if I can try to explain it in a clearer way. That the Rebbe himself, one of the examples is that when the Rebbe said Torah Zayin Chelik Beis, that he wanted to reveal to us the greatness of the Zman of the Ratzon Shabbat. He wanted to reveal to us the greatness of this time. And so when the Rebbe himself said this, he revealed this great comprehension. He revealed it to us at the time of Shalshus, which is the time of the Ratzon Shabbat. Or in Torah Vov, the Rebbe talks about Adam HaYoshev Al Kisa, a person sitting on a chair, this great lofty idea in Kabbalah. And when the Rebbe himself revealed this idea, he himself sat on a chair, and he revealed this idea because it was connected. The Rebbe himself, he himself did what he was talking about, and through that he brought this into the world. Kain Avur Lakaman Siman Vav. There's Siman Samach Likutey Aleph, Siman Zayin Likutey Tinyana, Va'oid Bekama Moharan. Kain Avur V'noida B'azhara Sakasav V'kshartim Ois Ayodecha. Shafal Pisha Kavana Sakasav Hu Al Koliyas HaTorah. Gam Nir Lashonei Ke'eno Mazi Rak Al Divrei HaTorah Sher Zelosei Lekashram La'ois. Kozoi Seidino Chazal Ba'amitas Kavana Sakasav V'nyana Al Atzmoi V'adarabba Zulas Atzmoi V'nyana Ein Tzorech Klal Lekashram Al Yad Shimichasa V'ksivas HaTfilin Afil Ois Achas Ma'akasav Azeh Ukshartim Ein Oid B'kshiyasam Shum To'elis Ad Shigam Kishemekashim Oisam Oivim Al Azharas HaKasav. So an example of this idea, to help us to understand it more, it will be the example of tefillin. That it says in the Torah, "Ukshartim lois ayodecha, v'ayos beinecha." So it would seem that the Torah is telling us that we have to be makasher, we have to tie onto ourselves the Torah itself. But it's even more than that, because the Chazal teach us that which we put on tefillin, that we tie to our arms, that we have, and we put on our head as well. What needs to be inside the actual batim, the black boxes of the tefillin, needs to be those words, the commandment itself. From the words from that parsha, those are the parshas that we put in the tefillin. So the commandment and the mitzvah itself are not something separate; they go together. And until to the point where if these words are not written in the tefillin that I put on, so not only do I not get a mitzvah, I get never if I put it on. So it's completely one. It's something that's inseparable. So for example, it would be as if I would tell you that why put up a sign for me that I will be giving a shiur in the 18 principles on Wednesday night. So it's as if it would be as if you would take a piece of paper and you would write that Rabbi Chaim Salesky will be giving a shiur in the 18 principles of how to learn Likutey Moharan